The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Patrick Bangert. Patrick is the VP of Artificial Intelligence for Samsung SDS America. Patrick, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we're delighted to have you. Patrick, let's start with yourself, please. Could you give us a bit of an overview of your journey in technology, from where you got started, some of the roles you held along the way, and take us up to the point of joining Samsung SDS America?
So I started out being a kid interested in how the world works. And so I signed up for a physics degree, ultimately found that I liked the theory better than the practice. And so I switched to the mathematics department where I got my PhD. I was a professor of mathematics for a few years before I joined the economic world, where I started my own company to bring the applied mathematics, which these days is often called artificial intelligence, into the market. I got involved with the chemicals and oil and gas industries for the most part with my own company, doing things like forecasting the failure of large equipment like pumps or turbines. So I did that for a while and until that company was acquired. And at that point, which is now about 3 years ago, I joined Samsung SDS as the vice president for artificial intelligence. So my journey has been in artificial intelligence for the entire career that I've had to this point. But in addition to doing that on a technology level, so software and mathematics combined, I've also always been leading the business side, where the tasks are organizing teams, finding customers, making sure that we're solving problems for which people are prepared to pay.
Well, thank you for that overview. Your background in AI obviously stems back and is in part the reason why you have the role that you do now. So you mentioned you're the VP of AI at Samsung SDS America. So everybody listening will know Samsung as a brand, but can you explain to us what the SDA part of the organization is and then your roles and responsibilities?
So Samsung Group as a whole comprises of about 22 different companies. Most of them make some sort of physical thing. It could be a phone, a TV, home appliances, memory chips. As you say, most people will know what Samsung is. Samsung is, though, a lot broader than a company that makes phones and TVs. We make a lot of different things. There's even Samsung Heavy Industries that makes pipelines. In all of these sets of companies, there is one company that does not make a physical product, and that's Samsung SDS, which is short for Samsung Data Services. That's the IT company in the group. So SDS does things like run the data centers, write the software, and do some of the artificial intelligence. And that's the part that I'm responsible for. Now, you can imagine that a company that does a lot of its business with small consumer electronics has a large retail arm, both in stores that are in geographical locations as well as online stores, of course. So we do some things like forecasting. Who is going to buy what, when, and where? Where do we have to ship these things logistically to either the individual user at home, a store, a warehouse? So there's a lot of logistical operations that we do ourselves. We are one of the few large companies who make consumer electronics that actually manufacture them themselves. We don't outsource that. We have our own facilities. So in those facilities, you of course have a large amount of machinery. Some of the goods produced are scrap. So artificial intelligence is involved in predictive maintenance for the machines, in detecting scrap, in isolating the scrap units from further production, in automation, efficiency, streamlining, all sorts of things like that. Of course, where it relates to people, it's worker safety. So a lot of different areas in the process involve AI in some fashion. At the end of the line, of course, the product that you hold in your hand, there's little AIs buried all over the place. For example, the fact that your phone unlocks when you look at it, that's a facial recognition trained on your very own face, and multiple other units. The most famous, I guess, is Bixby, which is our natural language command and control module, comparable to the Apple's Siri, where you essentially speak to your phone and it does what you say. So there are multiple uses of AI throughout the corporation.
Thank you for that. You've given a couple of amazing examples. I want to spend some time now understanding your role as the VP of AI, and particularly talking about some of the key achievements that you've had since joining. I know you and I have spoken off recording numerous times, and you've shared some of the amazing results in such a short period of time. But if you could give us a high level overview of what your role and responsibilities are, and then share some of the impact that you've had since joining.
Listen, my personal role as the VP of AI is really, on the one hand, organizational, managerial. On the other hand, I'm essentially the mascot of the AI team, right? I get to be the cheerleader. I get to be the face who gets on podcasts like this or panel presentations and just represent the group. The real good work, of course, is not done by me, but by the rest of the team. And there we really split into two major sections. There is an engineering part of the AI organization that writes software tools. Those software tools help other people make AI models, use AI models, deploy them in real life practice. The other part is called AI sciences. This is where the research and development really happens, where we invent new algorithms, new methods, or to actually conduct projects that result in a specific model for a specific purpose. So one thing that I'm really proud of that my research and development team did during the last 2 years in my tenure is we invented a new methodology for what's called active learning. This requires a little bit of explanation. If you want to train an AI model, you require data on which to train it. It's just like when a human being learns, you need something to learn from, like a textbook. And in preparing that data, you need both the raw data itself as well as what are called labels. These are human-generate little snippets of information that allow the AI to put that thing into context. So an example would be an image of a road scene where the AI is supposed to look for things like, where's the road? Are there cars on the road? Are there traffic signs? Which traffic signs are they? Is it a stop sign or a speed limit sign or something like that? Now, for the AI to be able to do that, it requires a human being to draw an outline by the computer mouse. If you find yourself dragging the computer mouse across that image, drawing an outline around each of these objects, the road, the car, the traffic sign, and saying, this is a traffic sign. Now, obviously, you need to do that for a great many images. Typically, we're talking hundreds of thousands or millions of images. And so there is a labor cost associated to doing this, which is very significant. Active learning is a technique that allows you to speed that up by over 90% by choosing the right images to label by person and generating the same amount of information content as you would do by labeling everything. Instead, you only label maybe 5% of the data. So that was a really major scientific innovation that we made. Of course, we patented it, we published it in the literature, and we implemented that in a software that allows you now to label image with that small fraction of the labor cost. We do, in the midst of our daily work, even perform some real innovative work that we can really be proud of. So that's what we do.
Amazing. Leading then into the team, which you rightly so gave them a lot of praise for the amazing work. Since you've joined, you've doubled the headcount and increased the overall performance and satisfaction rate. Can you talk to us about the broader team that you work with and give us a look behind the scenes and from the positions that exist, the overall size and what it looks like day to day?
Well, day to day, we really work on projects. So a project, of course, is something that has a budget, a timeline, and some goals. Samsung is very good about tracking its goals. So we carefully define these things in advance, and then we work on the project. So it's all relatively well captured by planning. And then we assign the people to the projects and get the job done. So if there's a new idea, it has to fit into that queue. Might have to wait a little bit before it gets done. So the daily life is maybe not as chaotic as one might think, but it rather follows a plan that's been put into place beforehand. Software engineering works largely in the agile mindset where we go through a set of sprints on a 2-weekly basis, trying to accomplish those goals. It's the scientific process that is a little bit more like a staircase where you know that you have a problem to solve, but in advance of it, you do not know exactly how you're going to solve it, or in some instances, even if you'll be able to solve it. And so here, there is a process trying to generate that moment of divine inspiration where the crucial idea of how you might solve this will eventually hit you. And so one of the challenges being the manager of the group is to provide enough peace and quiet and space and time for that divine inspiration to hit. If you keep people busy doing mundane tasks all the time, then that creative moment will never happen. But it's essential to create the creative moment. And therefore, what you need to do is remove the work in order for the work to happen.
This is quite refreshing to hear from a VP of AI, because I know there's a lot of data scientists and data engineers who are working to tight deadlines and at capacity just to hit a deadline and a deliverable. But it's great to hear your approach and your overall view on leaving some time for creativity.
You are listening to the Alldus podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.alldus.com.
Staying on the topic then of the work that you're doing day to day, I know you've had a lot of marquee projects that you've already had a major impact on, but when you look at the roadmap for your group at Samsung SDS over the next 12 to 24 months, what are some of the things that you're excited about to be working on with the team? What are some of the milestones that you expect to be working on?
So the most exciting thing to me personally is AI in healthcare. So as you might know, Samsung Group does produce CT and ultrasound machines. So you can find them in your local hospital. Based on those images, you can be diagnosed, hopefully that you're healthy, but in some instances, maybe you have some condition. Generally, of course, you need to wait a period of time between the image taken and the diagnosis. The worldwide average is about a month. So if you're worried that you're sick, that month can be very stressful. Of course, it also leads to you being treated for whatever you have 1 month too late. AI can bridge that gap, of course, by providing you with a reliable diagnosis immediately. So that's one of the things that we're working on, and that's very satisfying and rewarding, of course, to us as the scientists, because we're able to, through science, provide a tangible benefit to real people. And so that's very exciting. We're primarily doing this for things like cancers, but there are other conditions that we're tracking as well. So that's very exciting. In addition to that, Samsung SDS is moving more and more to a cloud-first strategy where we will be putting our AI capability, both the tool sets and the models, in Samsung Cloud in the next 12 to 24 months. So you can be tuned to the future projections there, where we'll be somewhat competing with our fellow AI companies that are already in the cloud. So that transition is exciting from a software engineering point of view, where you have to reconfigure a lot of the tools in such a way that they will work in the cloud, which is a surprisingly different environment to an on-premise deployment. And so that's what we're working on heavily on the engineering side going forward.
Which really speaks to the continued investment into AI by leadership at Samsung, which is obviously going to create a lot more work for you and your team. So on the topic of the team and the projects ahead, what sort of impact will that have to headcount? Like I know you and I speak about the growth plans. So for our audience who are always interested in good places to work, can you describe what the growth plans will look like from a headcount perspective? What opportunities are there going to be for people who like the sound of the environment that you've described and may be interested in work for you in the future? What positions are you going to need to hire for?
Yeah, excellent question. So to the audience, please consider Samsung Group and specifically Samsung SDS as a potential future employer, both for AI-related data analytics type jobs as well as others. We, of course, have a huge group just doing software engineering or IT management. We have offices in many places. We have offices here in the San Francisco Bay Area where I live, but we have them in New Jersey. We have in India, in Vietnam, in Korea. We even have an office in the Ukraine. So even if you're not local, do consider applying for a job here. One of the things that distinguishes us from many other companies is that careers at Samsung tend to last a great deal longer. So there is a statement that the average tenure at a Silicon Valley company is 14 months. Well, at Samsung, it is quite a few years. People who come here and start working here generally don't leave, or at least do not leave very soon. Work-life balance is a reality here. You will be able to have a life and job security and so on. So that's definitely an argument in our favor. The headcount globally will increase significantly. We don't know exactly by how many units at this point, with the global economy going into somewhat of a recession at this moment. What we are doing is nobody will be laid off and we will hire more people. So the headcount will definitely go up. By how much, I can't really say right now.
Well, even for you to be able to say that, given the current turbulence of the overall broader economy, speaks to the investment that Samsung are making. It's not just in its AI technology, but also its people. And yeah, I've spoken to many people at Samsung, and the feedback on the environment is incredible. You've just described it perfectly. So, Patrick, final question for me then. I just want to get your personal take on what you expect to see with the future of AI. Obviously, Samsung making a shift towards Samsung Cloud and the innovation happening within AI within healthcare is incredibly exciting. But when you look at the next 2 to 5 years, what do you expect to see coming down the line? What are you particularly excited about? And what should we be looking out for as people who are going to benefit from developments in AI?
Yeah, AI is currently a major topic in the news and in people's conversations. There are some worries about AI. So in many conversations, I find myself having to talk about the Terminator and technologies of that nature. So I do want to assure the listeners, as I generally do, that we as an AI community worldwide are extremely far away from having a Terminator. So your lives or your freedoms are not going to be taken away by some AI system. That I think is important to mention. We are very firmly in what we call narrow AI, which means AI solves a very specific, very targeted problem and not problems with the same model. And that's what all the companies, including Samsung, but all the others as well, are investing in. So that will be the future. In terms of AI that will actually hit the consumer, I think autonomous vehicles are it for the next few years, because that technology is solved as far as science is concerned. It's now merely a question of producing enough vehicles to actually make a dent. Scientifically speaking, I think the diagnostics and healthcare that I mentioned will be the next evolution in maybe 5 to 10 years from today, that will actually be rolled out and available for the individual patient or consumer to use. So that's the future as far as we regular citizens are concerned. In industrial applications, you can expect both manufacturing and logistics industries to be more and more automated. In the workplace, you can expect that a large number of very small and mundane tasks will become more and more automated with the help of AI. But overall, it'll be a multitude of small applications that will make your life just a little bit more automated and a little bit easier than before. I think that will be the evolution of AI as opposed to a big revolution. And of course, since we're talking about jobs, that will entail the number of jobs in AI, in data analytics, will increase steadily over the next many years. Targeting a career in this field is pretty much a safe bet. And I believe it is a safe bet just about anywhere in the world, and the number of jobs will keep going up.
Patrick, thank you so much for coming on today. I was very much looking forward to this interview from the moment we talked about it and agreed to do it. The investment in AI at Samsung is amazing, and it sounds like you guys are only just getting started with the advancement into Samsung Cloud and the impact of AI in healthcare. But most importantly, the environment and the team and the culture that you've created is incredible, very impressive, and it sounds like a great place to work. So we wish you, the team, and everyone over at Samsung the best of luck in the months and years to come, and we look forward to having you back on the show in the near future.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.